This is the Global Broadcasting Service, serving remote outposts since 1928.
Hi, everyone. Welcome aboard the Walt Disney World Express monorail.
Caramba, we have something really big for you today.
Welcome, foolish mortals.
Now then, hang on to them hats and glasses, because this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
This is the DBC Pod with Phil Schoen and Jason Dodge.
Hi, friends. Welcome to this week's pod. This is the show for the week of July 28th, 2025. And while Jason is at Walt Disney World, I am sure doing the best to stay as cool as possible. We have Matt Peto from the Dizhappenings podcast join us, and we're going to talk about what's going on in our Disney World. So, Matt, welcome back to the pod. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. It's great to be back. I love coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. For those of you that aren't subscribed to Dizhappenings, please do. Matt is brave enough to put out something 5 days a week every morning, and it's kind of one of the first things I do every morning while I'm making coffee is listen to that. He's been recounting his Disneyland trip, the first time he took his whole family out there, so we'll be covering a lot of that here, but he gets into a lot more details if you go back for the past couple weeks of episodes. For this week, though, we are going to cover kind of some pretty major news that Disney broke kind of out of nowhere, that the magic of Disney animation is going to be arriving at Disney Hollywood Studios, taking over Animation Courtyard and Launch Bay and stuff like that. Also, Touring Plans has updated their crowd calendars. They've, I guess, have enough data now to show that crowds aren't maybe as high as they thought they were going to be. And they've made some adjustments. We'll go through that. And then Matt is going to talk about his trip to Disneyland. And part of what he's been doing is trying to get people that only go down to Walt Disney World to get, I guess, a little out of their rut and try going out to the West Coast. And so I kind of labeled this section as Matt will try to convince people to visit Disneyland. So
I'm going to do my best.
Yeah. We do want to recognize a new member to our Discord server, Bert and Sal. Thanks for joining. Hope you can join in on some of the conversations there. There's been a lot of good back and forth and lots of stuff going on between cruising and people going to their first Christmas parties, asking questions and stuff like that. And we're also, we do have a Discord fantasy football league that's starting to kick off again too. So people talking about that. So it's always activity going on the Discord. So getting right into it, we'll start with the news. The magic of Disney animation. As I mentioned, seemingly out of nowhere, Disney announced that an update is coming to the Animation Courtyard area of Hollywood Studios. So that whole area, including Star Wars Launch Bay and the Disney Junior Play and Dance, will close effective September 25th. So September 24th is the last day to enjoy those two areas. For the amount of people that actually enjoy that. I mean, I know people with little kids, I'm sure, do the Disney Junior Play and Dance, but I don't know how many people make it. You know, we were just doing all the skipper, filler, and planners. I don't know how many people plan around going to Launch Bay, but if that's something you were looking forward to, you have until September 24th to do that. What they have said is that in 2026, that the current home of Star Wars Launch Bay will transform into a place where, and this is from the article from Disney, where kids and kids at heart can laugh, draw, dream, and explore animated new experiences. The exterior of the building will be updated to resemble the iconic Roy E. Disney Animation Building, which is out in Burbank. And they say it will be topped with a Mickey Sorcerer hat. Seems more like the entranceway is going to be topped. It's kind of more on the front of the building, but there will be a Sorcerer's hat returning to Hollywood Studios. So before I get into kind of the key points of like the different elements, what was your first reaction when you heard this news break? And like I said, I don't think anybody was expecting it, certainly not expecting it to come when it did. It seemed to be out of nowhere.
Yeah, it was funny when Len mentioned it on one of his, I think maybe on the forums, he mentioned it. Him and Jim Hill were talking about it. It might have actually been on the Disney Dish, that they were talking about doing this animation experience again. Because they had that before Launch Bay, right?
Right.
And it, to me, like there's been all these rumors that they were going to do Zootopia there eventually, or potentially The Simpsons there, which all Disney theme park fans, I would say in unison on that one, is like, please no.
Yeah.
And you know, obviously they pivot plans, right? Or maybe the plan the whole time was to stick Monsters where it's going. Which to me, it makes the most sense now. It was never going on Animation Courtyard. And to me, like, this is a good bridge to whatever they're going to do in the future, whether it's And Len even mentioned it this week that this seems like a 10-year plan. And that was my first reaction when I saw it. This isn't a short term thing. They're doing this to add life to that space so it's not just a dead zone. And honestly, I'm excited about it. I don't know how much use I'll get out of it, but it just fits way more than Launch Bay. And I do think it's going to draw some crowds there.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's kind of interesting because it feels like a lot of the park they've been shifting away from the studio feel and kind of going to these immersive worlds where you're like in the world of Star Wars or in the world of Toy Story. This seems to be harkening back more to the original vision of MGM Studios. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing. It's just kind of a shift in strategy. It feels like, I had one of the questions I was going to bring up was the thought about how temporary this is. Yeah, I think Len was first saying like, oh, this is something they could do for a couple of years and then they could change it over in the second 5 years of this whole 10-year plan and stuff like that. But yeah, I heard on the Disney Dish today too, Jim Hill thinks it's at least like a 10-year plan. And I think when something's at least 10 years, I'm kind of calling it's permanent until it's not permanent. I don't think it's something they're investing billions and billions in that they couldn't update it, down the line when they want to. But this is going to be a semi-permanent thing at least, and not just like a quickie turnover that's only meant to last a little while. So what will it contain? Going through again from the story, it says the story that they're setting up for this place, and it's kind of mirroring the short that was put out a couple of years ago, Once Upon a Studio, which was celebrating 100 years of Disney animation. Is that this reimagined space begins as the animators have temporarily stepped away, but the building is still buzzing with activity as the characters have come to life and they're ready to play. So the idea is you're going to the animators workshop. The animators aren't there, but you get to interact with all the characters and stuff like that. So you're going to get to explore and interact with silly takes on the studio departments. So there'll probably be an area with storyboards and area with like, the rough cuts and like the ink and paint and stuff like that. You'll see portraits come to life just like they did in the short Once Upon a Story. So in that short, there were portraits on the wall and the characters kind of come out of it. I don't know if it'll be that or just sort of like animated pictures, kind of like they do in the Wizarding World of Harry Potter or something like that, but I guess we'll see. It said there will be a short film. They haven't given any specifics on it other than that there will be a twist in it. You'll have the opportunity to draw a character, so similar to what used to be there back in the day, but now most recently has been done at Rafiki's Planet Watch. I don't know if they'll keep it in both places or remove it from Rafiki's. And then they're also going to have a Drawn to Wonderland play area that is inspired by Mary Blair's concept art for Alice in Wonderland. So there'll be a nice indoor play area. And I think the way it's going to be kind of on the first floor, and there'll be areas above it where parents can kind of be above and keep an eye on their kids and stuff. Their kids will have a little bit of freedom running around and burning off some of those energies. And then they talked about character greetings. All they said was, and there are lots. So there's going to be a lot of characters in there. We'll see if it's going to be kind of the standard characters or if they'll have more unusual ones or if it'll rotate or whatever, but it's definitely, they're trying to get a lot of character meets back into the park. So like, this feels like things they've had in the past. It feels like things that were maybe intended for the play pavilion. But I think it should be a fun opportunity, especially for families with like younger kids, because I think that's always one of the complaints about Hollywood studios is they have a lot of these like more thrilling rides. There's not a ton for younger kids. I think this will work out well for them. So I don't know. What were your thoughts about the individual items?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it definitely seems more kid focused, which I don't think is a bad thing. You know, in terms of like, I know there used to be a playground in Hollywood Studios. I don't think there is one now, right?
Not currently, no.
Not since Honey, I Shrunk the Kids or whatever it was, right? So it's been a long time since they've had that. And, me and you both have, I would say older kids, Disney adult kids.
Yeah, right? Disney says they're adults. So.
Yeah, over 9 years old. So this doesn't really impact me, but I do think it's a good thing. To me, I felt that whole space back there was a waste, and I just think this is going to bring new life to it. And, I like the fact that there's going to be a film there. I think that's cool. I like the animation experience. I actually skipped that one in Animal Kingdom because it's such a trek to get on Rafiki's. So at least this will be a little bit easier to do. And I definitely think it's a checkout. I'll be interested to see where you guys rank it in terms of, skip or plan or whatever. I'm sure the first time is always a plan, right?
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I'm excited about it, and I'm wondering like the buildings behind it are all the office buildings,
right?
And I start to wonder like if this is going to be almost like potentially a portal to whatever they're going to build behind it. Like maybe the queue to the next attraction will start through this building. Like it's possible. Maybe it's an animated attraction that's coming at some point. Like they can do a lot with this space. So I don't look at it as temporary at all. Like you said, to me, 10 years, that's permanent to me.
Yeah, I agree. I think the one, I don't know if negative or something, but I think one benefit that we were hoping if they did a bigger update to this area is that they would have that connection point
Right.
over to like where Rock and Roller Coaster is. It seems like this isn't going to do that. This, the footprint of the area is largely going to stay the same. So that's one thing we're not getting. But yeah, like you said, this they could take their time and over time maybe move out some of those office buildings, relocate people, and do more back there. But we'll have to see. But at least in the short term, I forget if I mentioned, but this is planning to open next year. So closing in September means they got at most about 15 months to get this done. So they did also specifically talk about it's not just going to be the building that's changing. The courtyard itself in front is going to be changing as well. They're adding in a lot of trees, so it looks like going to add some shade. There's not a lot of trees in much of Hollywood Studios, so this is definitely going to be appreciated. The Little Mermaid show is going to stay open throughout the whole time. They are changing the name of the theater that it's in. It's now going to be called the Studio Theater. And then they also said that where the Disney Junior show was, there's now going to be a new Disney Junior experience that'll eventually go in there. A lot of rumors that Bluey will be part of it, but I guess we'll see. And they're now going to call that area the Sound Stage. One thing which I haven't heard people mention is that back in the day, before it was Disney Junior, it was Bear in the Big Blue House. But before that, it was the Soundstage Restaurant. So I guess they're kind of keeping that name of what that building used to be, which was open when the park opened. It was quick service. Then it became a character meal. You could have breakfast with Aladdin, and actually the camels that are now in front of the magic carpets of Aladdin that spit at you, they used to be at the front of that building. So, but I like the idea that they're going back to like kind of referencing the name of something that was a kind of opening day thing at Hollywood Studios. But to that front area, the article starts. It says, while exploring the studio's grounds and courtyard area, families can take a break to play, relax, or snack on tasty treats under lush trees. And make sure to look around. You never know who you might see playing in the branches, soaking up the sun, or digging in the grass. And the concept art showed a family meeting with Pluto. And so the idea is, at least they're putting it out there, that there's going to be some characters roaming in that area and stuff like that. They also did say that the arch that currently is there that you walk through to get to Animation Courtyard, that's going to be removed to make it more of an open feeling. I think draw people in there. It kind of almost feels like it's closed off, like you're not really supposed to go there. You can't really tell what's there. So I think this is good that they'll open it up. They're going to put a new entrance sign that resembles the one that's at the Disney Animation Studios in Burbank. So they're really trying to make this sort of like, yeah, the actual studios are over in Burbank, but this is like the Hollywood Studios version of the actual animation studios that you're going to go visit. So we hit a bunch of the questions that I already had written down here. One thing I kind of wanted to think about, like, obviously we're both big fans of the Muppet Vision 3D. We hope it comes back somewhere and stuff like that. But, it feels like once this is done and once Monstropolis is done, it's a net improvement of the park versus what it was like when we went down in May, right? So now you're going to have the new Monsters show, whatever that's going to be, plus the suspended door coaster. And then you're going to have this whole new animation area that's going to be for the whole family and kids and stuff like that. So while kids maybe lose the Muppet show and they're not able to do the Rock and Roller Coaster, they'll have this new experience. So what's your kind of thoughts on just the vision of the park overall once these kind of two major updates are complete?
I mean, I think it's a net win for capacity. I mean, just obviously just adding the door coaster is going to be a net win because you're going to still basically replace the Muppets with a Monsters Theater show. Then you have this space that's just more usable. I mean, nobody's using Launch Bay. I was going to ask maybe you and Jason if you wanted to do it down and back in September to say goodbye to the Launch Bay, but it's just space that nobody was using.
Yeah.
They haven't had a theater show running since COVID, so it's just completely useless space. So I agree. I think it's better for Hollywood Studios, and they are expanding the footprint of the park overall. And now it's going to drive people to to Sunset Boulevard, to Slinky, to Monsters, to Galaxy's Edge, and obviously it's people aren't going to rope drop this, but it's just something else for them to do. So I think it's a good thing for Hollywood Studios. I'm glad they're addressing it, because you heard a lot of people say after they were done with Galaxy's Edge that they're not revisiting Hollywood Studios for 10 years. They were going to go through, Animal Kingdom and Magic Kingdom, and obviously they finished Epcot. But it's good that they're still reinvesting in Hollywood Studios.
Yeah, for sure. Couple small things. Now we know that there were some Star Wars meet and greets in there that kind of fit, especially Darth Vader is a popular one. That's one thing that some people that were like, oh, what's going to happen to that? I like doing that meet and greet. Do you think they're going to like relax the timeline of Galaxy's Edge and start bringing over some of the stuff that was in Launch Bay? Or is it just, we're not seeing Darth Vader anymore after this?
They got that space next to Star Tours too. So, where they used to do the Jedi training trials. Yeah. So maybe they put a meet and greet there. You can meet Vader. I don't know. I know we all kind of hope that they relax that. I mean, at some point, the problem is they have Rise and they have, Falcon. Who knows what the story is going to be for that? I mean, they should be able to make it work, honestly. I mean, just like Frontierland. I don't know if you ever saw like Jack from DNSY put all the decades, right? In terms of, Tiana's Bayou Adventure and Big Thunder Mountain and Country Bears. They all have different decades, right?
Right.
And then same thing with Cars, where it's coming. You could do the same thing with Galaxy's Edge. You could say that, Rise is this sequel era, right? And you could try to draw other parts of Galaxy's Edge to other time periods that they wanted to, and stick Vader, Luke, Yoda if they wanted to. I don't think that'd be a bad move. Well, we'll see if they do it.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's going to be interesting because I don't know what time period the new update to Falcon is when it has Mando and Grogu. Now that show takes place in between the original trilogy and the sequels, whereas Galaxy's Edge currently is set after Episode 7, I think. So they're already going to have to bend things a little bit to make that work. So maybe they could just kind of keep going. So we'll see. And obviously a lot of people are excited to see the Sorcerer's Hat. I was never a huge fan of the Sorcerer Hat, more because of the placement and that it was just like a pin store underneath. It wasn't like anything major. But it's nice to see it back. Do you think they'll revert the icon of Hollywood Studios to the Sorcerer's Hat, or will they just keep it as Tower of Terror?
I think they'll keep the Tower of Terror. I do, because I don't think this is going to be a huge icon. I think it's going to be like a nice nod. It will, it's nice to have the hat back, but I don't think they'll overplay. But we'll see. I do wonder if Mickey and Minnie will change locations and they'll actually have meet and greets in there, which might free up the space where they're at now.
Yeah,
but
that's a good thought.
It would make sense to move Mickey there, but we'll see. Okay.
And then the last question about this I had is, why do you think they announced this now? This kind of feels like something they could have saved for Destination D23, but they got about, we're about a month out from that and they decided to announce it. Do you think it's just because of the closure date, or what were your thoughts on why they announced it now?
I think they try to announce things that are going to generate like a positive reaction. And honestly, maybe they didn't know if this would have a positive reaction because people want the big splash. They want that Moana log flume attraction there. They want, an Incredicoaster there or something like that. They want something significant there. So maybe this would have been like, yay, kind of the slow clap type of thing. And maybe they just didn't feel like it needed to be aired out there, which gives me more hope, where I thought maybe it was a nothing burger, the whole thing. Now I'm starting to think maybe it's more. Maybe we'll get some news, and I know you're going to be there. So I know you got an active rooting interest in that. Yeah.
That's a good thought, that they kind of like, well, would people be disappointed that it isn't something bigger? So they wanted to kind of not have it seem like a big announcement out there when maybe it isn't. The other thing I've heard is just some people didn't want it overshadowing other things done at Hollywood Studios, and they'll kind of now just have like, okay, here's our general update for Hollywood Studios, and this is one of the 3 things that's being worked on, versus this kind of overshadowing other things. But I like your idea. I think that's a good theory. So the last thing I wanted to ask you, and I think you're a good person to ask because you guys didn't go, obviously we did our down and back and stuff, but you didn't do a family trip to World this year. So I was just kind of thinking, like, if you booked a trip for, say, next September or October 2026, these are all the new things that should be open or likely would be open between your last trip and like that trip. So obviously you would have Starlight, which starts now. You have the 2 new shows, Mermaid Update, Villains Unfairly Ever After. You have Test Track 3.0, and Geo 82. Those things are kind of opening this year. Later this year, you'll also have Zootopia Better Together. You'll also have the updated Big Thunder, the Beacon Barrel, the updated Buzz Lightning, Space Ranger Spin, small refurb to Spaceship Earth, whatever that's going to be. Then you have the new Mando and Grogu and the Falcon, and you'll have Magic at Disney Animation and the Muppets and Rock and Roller Coaster. So that's all would be new between like the last time your family went. Now it's not any one big giant thing,
Right.
but that feels like a lot of new stuff to like motivate people to come down and keep them busy, right?
I agree. I mean, it's not a bad pitch. I still feel like the big moment is when Tropical Americas opens. You know, that's to me where I feel like, okay, I have to get my family down there to experience brand new attractions, brand new land. And honestly, Animal Kingdom is hurting so bad right now. Like, I feel like it's like a quarter day park right now.
Yeah.
It's not in a good spot. So yeah, would this woo me? Of course, anything would woo me to get down there. Would it woo me to bring my whole family? There might be enough content there, but I'd still probably rather push it back 1 year.
Okay.
And wait for Tropical Mariners. What about you?
Yeah, I don't know, because we're going this November, so we'll get some of these new things. So I don't know if it's enough to get me to do a big trip just for Disney World. You know, my current plans is maybe try to do like a more Orlando trip and hit up like Epic Universe and then do a couple days at Disney or something. I don't know. So we'd have to see, but it might impact timing a little bit. Like if I knew something was going to open, maybe we push back a month or something like that. I don't know, but it's just interesting that, you know, if you're that family that goes I think Disney says the average guest comes every 2 to 3 years. Like that's a lot of new stuff to check out if you haven't been there in 2 years. So it's like, that's pretty exciting. And there's, the other thing I heard on, the Disney Dish is that it seems like the Cool Kids Summer they're getting very positive response to that. So it'll likely come back next year too. So it seems like, you know, families are responding to that. And I'm not going to get into it, but there's a whole lot on I posted about it in Discord too, that it seems like travel's maybe not as bad as people first expected it to be, especially to Orlando. Maybe summer is still kind of slow because people want to avoid the heat, but it seems like it's going to be harder to find, rooms and stuff like that as you get into the holiday season. So we'll see. Moving on to the next topic, and we'll try to get through some of these a little quicker because I want to leave plenty of time for Matt to talk about Disneyland. But they announced that a Parisian brunch is returning to Chefs de France during Food and Wine Festival. So reservations open on August 12th, and the first seating will begin on September 5th, and it will be offered on Fridays and Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. during Food and Wine Festival. This is something that they offered in the past during Food and Wine Festival, but it's been years. So personally, I think it's nice to see this come back. I know you're a newer fan to Disney. Did you ever go down like during the peak of Food and Wine Festival when they had tons of these, like I did a tequila pairing lunch and they had like, you know, classes teaching you how to make different cocktails. They had celebrity chefs coming down, like doing demos and stuff like that. Like, did you ever get to experience any of that? Or if you only had kind of the more modern, lighter version of Food and Wine?
It's possible I was there in like 2018. You know, I was there in November 2018.
Yeah.
So they would have had some of this stuff for sure.
Yeah.
I don't think it resonated then. So I didn't really experience, I guess, like you said, a full Food and Wine Festival. And they're not announcing any of this stuff's coming back, right?
No, this is the first, like, kind of, that's what I'm wondering, or it's piqued my curiosity. Like, is this just a one-off thing that they're trying out? You know, an opportunity because it's not open for breakfast. Now they can make some money. My understanding is the price is going to be $64.95 a person. Part of that is because it comes with unlimited French champagne mimosas, which obviously that'll, you know, help out reducing the number of drunk people in World Showcase.
Especially in the morning.
Yeah, well, you got to start early if you're going to be all day drinking, I guess. But I'm hoping this is kind of just the first of these that they're going to bring back. Even maybe they'll see how it goes, and then next year bring back another one and another one. Because I loved food. Like we used to plan our trips around going in like October or whatever, so we could be there for Food and Wine Festival for these things. But now it's like more or less just the food booths, and we'd rather do the other festivals. But if they can bring back some of these more special offerings that are only at Food and Wine, I think that would be great.
Yeah, food booths, and I would say the concerts, which they've always had.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd love to see the full one return. And I thought that was one of the purposes of Communicore too, wasn't it? That they were going to have these demonstrations there.
Yeah, I
That
mean,
was
they implied that it was going to be related to festivals and stuff. So obviously they've been putting in little like exhibits and stuff like that. But yeah, they haven't done demonstrations or whatever. In the past, they've had it in different spots. For a while, it was at what used to be the Wonders of Life Pavilion, was all full of, it was constantly having demonstrations and stuff like that. And then, yeah, there's a lot going on. So they used to have this big party called Party for the Senses. That was like this huge all included thing at night and stuff. So it'd be nice if they get back to some of that. You'd think they'd make enough money off of it that they would bring them back, but I don't know.
Do you know if the Epcot purist like that type of devotion into a food and wine festival? Because I don't even know if they like festivals, to be honest with
Yeah.
you.
The general, yeah, I mean, obviously I'm not a stickler like some of the Epcot purists, but I am an Epcot fan. So I think for the most part, people like those extra things because it made it feel special. It felt like you weren't just going, paying a ticket to go into a park to get in a line to buy food from a food booth. It was giving you the opportunity at things that you normally wouldn't have. They had, authors signing cookbooks and, you could get books signed and things like that. So I think people liked it. I think they certainly liked it more than the current version, which just feels like, okay, just food booths and stuff like that. So I think they would like to see some of those unique offerings come back and kind of make it feel a little special and different than the other festivals.
Gotcha. Well, it's exciting. Maybe this Chefs de France breakfast is opening the door. So it's a good point.
Yep.
It's by the way, I would definitely do this breakfast for sure. That's right on my alley. I would love to do that.
Yeah, I'd have to see. I mean, obviously, I think it'd be great for like a couples trip or something like that. And, I'm not paying $65 for each of my Disney adult kids to like not have champagne. But yeah, if I was going to like the end of August, I'm going down with my wife for parents only. If this was available to us, we definitely would consider it. But I don't think I'd do it with my whole family, but we'd have to see.
That makes sense.
And the last news topic is I wanted to mention that Touring Plans has updated their crowd calendars, basically saying so far in 2025, they've been seeing consistently and dramatically lower than anticipated crowd levels, and saying this isn't just a forecasting hiccup. It reflects a real shift in how guests are using the parks. They did go on to say it's not just Disney World that's seeing this changes. It's kind of travel more broadly and stuff like that. So they said overall 78% of their park days were over predicted, meaning the actual crowd was lower than what they thought it would be. On average, it was about 2.5 points lower than predicted, especially at Magic Kingdom and Hollywood Studios, where it seems like the headliner attractions are seeing lower weights. I also think part of that might be Lightning Lane Multipass with the tiering at these parks is kind of pushing people to the second tier attractions. So basically, because of this, what did they do? They've reforecasted all dates through early 2026 using this updated data, and they've incorporated recent what they're calling behavioral signals. So they're addressing these consistently lower wait times seen, especially in Magic Kingdom and Epcot. I think they're trying to like sort of take out some of these downtime days that was throwing off the data. They mentioned July 14th that a whole lot of rides down and that kind of messed up crowds. And they're also anticipating guests shifting to, say, to Epcot because of Test Track being open, and with the debut of Starlight, that's shifting people in the evenings to Magic Kingdom and stuff like that. So they're trying to incorporate all of that. And they said, well, they also speculated why is there the drop in the attendance? It definitely says there's a statistic saying 56% of Americans are planning to spend less on vacation this year than in the past. And they said international visitors remain down year over year. But they noted it was particularly from Canada and Europe, but overall international visitations only down about 1%, which they say guests from Mexico and Asia are kind of offsetting it being down from Canada and Europe, and that those guests coming are specifically targeting Florida and New York. So it seems like Orlando is getting hit less than other travel destinations. And I saw Len comment, he said Vegas specifically is really getting killed right now. So Len also said he doesn't think it's just lower attendance that's impacting the wait times. He thinks because reduction of use of the DAS, the Disney Disability Access Services, is still playing a role. Adjusted priorities for Lightning Lane and standby queues. People are just changing what's a priority for them. And he also said he thinks we're seeing less inflation of posted times relative to actual wait time, which is interesting. I haven't heard that discussed before. It seems like a lot of times you hear more people complaining that like the posted wait times are way overinflated, but their kind of statistics show that it's actually been closer to actual waits than in the past. The only other thing I wanted to add is I've been tracking for about a month and a half what Touring Plans was predicting and then what the actual wait times were. I was just doing overall for Walt Disney World, not by park. Overall, I was seeing they were off by about 3.1 points. They were always higher by around 3 points. I put in the updated values as I could compare it for like the last week in July, and they're around 1.4 points lower than the initial predictions. So I still think there is probably some room for it to be a little lower than the new predictions. So don't get freaked out if you're like, oh, they adjusted everything and now it says it's a 5, but I bet it's really going to be a 6 or 7. I think they're being still a little conservative with how much they're lowering it. So I wouldn't worry too much that it's actually going to be higher, but I guess we'll see. So I know you do you talk about the crowd calendars on every Monday episode of your show. So I don't know what your thoughts are on this, or if it kind of you were expecting this, or just in general what your thoughts are.
No, it's interesting. I know our friend Wheezy mentioned it to me, I think, on Discord that, this is the crowds aren't actually this, right? Like they're not a 6 or whatever. And, starting to look back at, the previous the previous, I guess, rankings, it was like, usually like 2s and 3s and 4s when we would forecast like 5 and 6s the whole week. So this makes sense. And I'm not really sure if I understand exactly where they're getting the metrics from. Is it just wait times? Are they looking at open dining? Like, are they looking at resorts being filled? Like, I wonder if they're just like weighing everything. I'm sure they are. Or is it just strictly wait time? Maybe
whenever
whenever
I've engaged with Len, and we've had him on the show and I've seen him before and stuff, is they really focus on wait times as being the driver of that, because that's what they can measure, and they have the Lines app for that. And sometimes even when they're just trying to maybe do a quicker study, they only look at like the headliner rides. And I remember there's one time he's like, oh, it's like so much lower now on for like, and he just said lower. And I was like, well, yeah, when you look at it, it's lower for like Mine Train and stuff like that. But then the tier 2 rides are actually higher because it's splitting people around. And so
right.
I do think you have to take their analysis with a little bit of grain of salt. Just because they're seeing the crowds lower, meaning wait times are lower, doesn't mean the parks are emptier or fuller or whatever. It's kind of specifically focusing on wait times.
Yeah, I agree.
So we'll see how it plays out, but I think it's good so that if you have a trip coming up in the near future, their prediction should be a little bit more accurate. They'll probably be a little bit lower than what you saw if you checked it, a month ago. So, maybe you want to update that and look at those. And they're also shifting around the days a little bit more. So if you do use crowd calendars to kind of pick what parks you visit on one day, if you've already done it, I would refresh it because things might have changed.
Yeah, and I do hear some arguments that people like, just throw crowd calendars in the trash. And I don't agree with that. I mean, this is still based on data. It's still based on wait time. There's a lot of data behind where they're coming up with their stats. And I feel like Touring Plans does give good information overall. So it's good to see that they have adjusted this. I mean, I meant to reach out to Len to ask these questions because, we definitely see an inflation here, but that's good to know that they're making the adjustments. So cool.
Yep. All right. So that winds up with our news of the week. Reminder of all our social media accounts. We are everywhere on Twitter, X, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Blue Sky, everywhere at the DBC Pod. And of course, our Discord server. Join the fun. And if you are watching on YouTube, please like, subscribe, tell your friends, all that sort of good stuff. But now we're moving on to the main event where Matt will talk a little bit about his Disneyland trip. And he's got the shirt on for those of you only listening. He's showing off his Disneyland
That's
merch.
right.
So not only did he spend all that money to fly his family out to the West Coast, he still had money left over to buy some merch. So that's good to know. So Matt, why don't you just give a little bit of time for kind of going over the trip, like how did it come about? Why did you want to do it? Why was it so important for you to get your family out there? I know you've talked a lot on your podcast about, for people that constantly go to Walt Disney World, you kind of feel like around 30% of your trip should be out to Disneyland. Why do you feel that way? And kind of where did this come from?
Yeah, so I went in February 2024. I went to San Diego for work, and I felt like I was too close to not check out Disneyland. And the fact that I checked it off and achieved it and experienced it, and honestly, my first reactions might have been like yours, Phil. Like I kind of felt like underwhelmed in some ways. I opened with DCA. I went to Pixar Pier, and I was like, this is cool. It's interesting. It was very crowded where I was at, and it just didn't hit me. It didn't hit me. And then there was like a switch that went off there, and I think it was when I watched World of Color the first time, and I felt the Disney magic right there. And they weren't playing Wondrous Journeys there; they were doing, I think, Mickey's whatever
Was it
Magic
Mixie's Mix Magic? Yeah.
whatever it was. And I knew, like, okay, I'm doing World of Color. Fantasmic was down for refurbishment, so it made it an easy decision for me. I had one night as I see World of Color. Then the next day, I really hit both parks pretty hard, going back and forth. But I just fell in love with all of it. And I I think it starts with Disneyland Park. I think Disneyland Park, you see this little castle and you want to feel underwhelmed with it, but it's so incredibly detailed. It's a gorgeous castle. Right now it's decorated with the 70th. To me, it looks as good as the Cinderella Castle. It's smaller, but it looks as good. It's detailed, beautiful, love it. Main Street gives you the same feel. But the way the park is just laid out, it just feels like you can take that park more into stride. There's so many more attractions with standby only. And I think that really, draws to me like an illustration on why like you can just, people like in California, they just kind of take it. They're not worried about running from attraction to attraction. It's, get in line, right? It's get in line for Pirates. It's get in line for all the Fantasyland attractions, the bus car rides. Am I saying that right? Is
Yeah,
it
bus car. Yeah.
Bus car rides. So you have a bunch of those. You have storybook canals. It just feels like, and here's the other thing: the lines don't get crazy there, even with with Lightning Lane. Like, you're not going to find It's a Small World more than a 15 or 20-minute wait, even with Lightning Lanes, because there's just so much to do out there. Now, I'll say, like, the daytime entertainment, I think World, especially Hollywood Studios, gets overlooked a lot. Hollywood Studios has a ton of live entertainment.
Yeah.
And I would say that's maybe one weakness that Disneyland has. But, we talk about, the nighttime shows, and, Disneyland Park itself has three unique shows. I mean, it's got, Wondrous Journeys. It's got Fantasmic that plays twice. Typically, not every night, but typically Fantasmic twice. And then it's got, Fire the Rise of Moons every night. So there's three nighttime shows. Splits the crowd up. If, you always talked about how, your family and you get a little bit of anxiety with trying to camp out a spot for Happily Ever After. It's not an issue there. Go see it in front of It's a Small World. Very laid back. It's kind of like, to me, like Luminous. I know it's not your favorite show, but you can line up kind of later to watch Luminous. You don't need to be in the first row, and it's
Right.
like that there. Obviously Paint the Night and the 70th offerings are a huge draw too. I was upset that I didn't get my family to see Magic Happens. I really like that parade. I'd rather see that than Festival Fantasy. I've seen Festival Fantasy so many times. Magic Happens is fun. It's definitely more, pop centric, I would say. With relevant characters, not relevant characters, recent characters. That's what I meant to say. But and then the one thing about Disneyland and nobody talks about is the food is outstanding. I mean, and I know we're going to get to it at some point, but the quick service and snack stuff there is way better than Magic Kingdom. So if you love Magic Kingdom and it's one of your favorite parks, Disneyland Park is superior in almost every way. I mean, it's got Rise, it's got Falcon, it's got all the stuff that Magic Kingdom's got. It's got Pirates and Big Thunder, and it's got Mickey's and Minnie's Runaway Railway. It's not that it exists in the Magic Kingdom, but it's just the library there is incredible. It still has Rivers of America if you're faithful to that. So to me, I think it's a part that you can take a little bit more vacation into vacation, because there's just so much to do. It's so much to explore. I had friends that went there a week after me, and we actually would have overlapped and went together, but we both used the same dog sitter, so we couldn't do it. And I helped them with their trip, and they did 2 days at Disneyland Park and 1 day at DCA, and they said that was perfect. It was absolutely perfect. They were able to hit everything. If you have Lightning Lane, makes it real simple to do, but you don't need it there. There's so much to do. So I hope I'm selling it. And I think when I left California in February 2014 or 2024, excuse me, I said I think you need like a 7-3 ratio. I think it's more of a 6-4 ratio now. Um, and if you're in the middle of the country, it might be 50-50. I really feel that strong about it. So go ahead. I know you probably want to
Yeah.
challenge some and
Yeah. Well, maybe I'll just kind of say like, so I went 10 years ago. It was actually during the 60th, and it was probably a little like your initial feelings when you went. It wasn't like it was a bad experience or anything like that. It was just, I think maybe my expectations were too high, that it was going to be like this perfect park. And so all the less than perfect things kind of jumped out at me or whatever. But I also think I probably need to give it another shot, right? My kids were really small. We were pushing a double stroller trying to get through these narrow pathways in Disneyland that weren't like the big wide corridors they have in Florida Magic Kingdom. It just, the crowds were unbearable. We visited, met up with some Disney friends from out there who were saying like, yeah, these crowds are like atypical, like, and I think that really like threw off our experience. We also found at DCA, it was before Avengers Campus and stuff like that. There wasn't a lot. It felt like there wasn't a lot for my little kids to do. They didn't make height requirements or even a lot of like the Pixar Pier stuff. It wasn't even Pixar Pier there. It was the Paradise Pier. So I just felt like we didn't get. So when you said you felt like you had more vacation in the vacation, I felt like I had less of a vacation in that one
right.
because it was harder to get to things and things took more time to get through because we were having to constantly child swap to do things and stuff like that. So now that my kids are a little bit older and can do everything, and we don't need to have a double stroller and stuff like that, maybe it is something we need to do. So I'm still probably going to push back on your 3 out of 10 or 4 out of 10. I do think it probably should be at least 1 out of 10, if not 2 out of 10. And for people who have never gone, even my somewhat negative take on it, I think as a Disney fan, you kind of owe it to yourself to at least get there once. Walk where Walt walked, look up, see the light on in his apartment and stuff like that. Like those moments still hit me as a Disney fan, even if there were some other elements. And also, I think some of the offerings that you guys did, and we'll get to it. I know you did like dessert parties and dining things. They didn't have a lot of those available when we went, so we were like fighting crowds for World of Color and got a crappy view, and like
Okay.
it just like detracted from a lot of things. So I don't know. I think there are legitimate reasons for it being underwhelming, but maybe we do owe it to ourselves to give it another shot. So let's get back into your trip. Why don't you talk a little bit more about like the structure, just like what's the makeup of your family, how many days you went, and like why did you decide on that many days versus more or less, and kind of where you stayed and all those sorts of logistic things.
Yeah, so I knew that. See, I'm not super adventurous. I'm the kind of guy that I like being in the bubble. So
Mhm.
I made the call pretty early that I wasn't going to do a good neighbor hotel. I wanted to stay at a Disney hotel. And did you do that too when you
No,
stayed
we
at?
stayed off property because again, with the family of 5, it was like really expensive if we wanted to
Makes
stay
sense.
on property. So we stayed at the Howard Johnson. We had a fun room. It was like it had all these Pirates of the Caribbean things, and the kids had bunk beds and stuff. So we definitely lost a little bit of the bubble because you're walking down that street and there's some like homeless people and stuff like that.
Right.
But the actual hotel we were in worked out fine. It really just came down to cost that we couldn't justify spending for a room that fit 5 on property.
No, it makes sense. Um, but I definitely wanted that experience, and I was able to grab a couple nights DVC, which was a lucky grab. It was a costly grab, not cheap to do a 1 bedroom at the Grand Cal, but I was able to grab 2 nights. I did see it open up, and I just went for it, and then I did use a travel agent discount for so I feel like I cheated a little bit, right? So a lot of people can't do that, but I would still recommend if you can swing it, stay at the Disneyland Hotel. The pools are fantastic. And that I'm a big proponent, and I know you've probably heard me on the podcast just about downtown Disney. I feel like it's almost a main street to the parks, with shops and restaurants down Main Street as you approach that center area, and I just feel like it's got charm. It's got the Disney music going, and I've always felt like Disney Springs was just too busy and hectic. So again, another big ad there. But back to your question, I wanted to stay, on Disney property, and I also wanted to, take the family and at least do do a beach. I heard Southern Cal beaches were beautiful, and I really wanted to take the opportunity. We're out that far to let my kids, dip their toes in the Pacific. Every year we do a week down the shore, in New Jersey, and one of my kids to experience, the Pacific. I did have a chance to do that back in, I guess, 2007 when I went to Maui. So really, really out there, I touched the Pacific. But I really wanted the kids to do it too. So I started researching beaches, and the beach that kept popping was Huntington Beach. And that was like kind of the primary one. But then we started watching more YouTube videos, and I saw a beach called Crescent Bay Beach, and it looked gorgeous. It looked beautiful, and that's the one that we were going to do. So we were going to lift. I was going to just do a lift from there. But I so happened to work for a car company, and I found out because of my friends that are going the week after we did, that they were able to get a car. So when I found out they could get a car from the company that I work for, I also approached that angle as well. So, and while I was staying with my DVC points, it was free parking. So I figured if I front load my trip and we go off campus for a few days, and again, I'm not an adventurous guy. Not a big like I don't love driving at night at spots that I know like you're never going to see me drive down to Florida like overnight. That is not my thing. I just feel like I don't see well enough for that. Um, but I was still kind of attracted to this. I was attracted to the idea. So, built in a day early in our trip to do the beach. And we did that. We actually were thinking about going to Huntington Beach afterwards, but my wife overruled me and said, let's just do the pool. It would have taken a long time to get to Huntington Beach because there was some traffic. So, but it was perfect. And actually, I heard Huntington Beach was kind of like the beaches that we have here. So I don't feel like we missed anything there. So the beach was fantastic. And then I had Mike, if you remember from Happily Everything Disney, one of my co-hosts, he's been to Disneyland 3 times. So he goes to World a lot. He's been to World a ton of times too. And he loves Disneyland. And he's telling me, look, go check out Universal. Check out Universal. You're out there, and I just got the vibe that this could be a one and done trip for us. I really did. And as soon as I got that vibe, I figured, you know what? Let's go check out Universal. And I'm glad we did it. It might be one and done for Universal. It just didn't meet my expectations. It was still a fun time. But again, I had the car, was trying to take advantage of it. And I also wanted to build my stay into, like, honestly, when you visit Disneyland Resort, you probably can pull it off in 3 days, like 3 park days. But if you want to take things slowly, if you care about the nighttime shows, and you care about taking the little things in, and like eating was a big part of our trip. The way that I structured our itinerary was we opened with 2 soft days at the parks, right? I did have opera early. I removed it and I added Lightning Lane Multipass. We can talk more about that if you want. But we kind of like grazed, DCA the first day. We grazed Disneyland the first day. We were able to get in, paint the night. We were able to get, breakfast that morning and get my chimichanga. We were able to do some things at DCA the first day, but it was more just, hey guys, here's the nickel tour, right? We still had 3, I would say, more dedicated park days. And what it allowed us to do was, on those dedicated park days, the one great thing about Disneyland Park, and here's the other thing, the weather out there. If you go to Disney World in the summer, and I know our buddy Jason's there, I know you're headed there. It's tough, man. It's that weather.
Yeah,
Is brutal.
Jason posted today that they like called it at some point. We're just like, it's too hot. We're like getting out of the parks and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely something you have to factor in Florida in the summer.
Now, it's not, I mean, it could happen at Anaheim, but it's way less likely. It's more likely low 80s, mid 80s at the worst, and you're going to get cooler nights to begin with. And the park hours are open later. Every night, DCA was open till 10. Every day, Disneyland Park was open till midnight. So it allows you to take the midday break. Again, it makes it more into that relaxing type of trip. It's not just you wake up at 8 a.m., you rope drop. As a matter of fact, nobody rope dropped in my family. I mean, at all. I was probably the closest one because I'd get up and I'd leave my family sleep in, and I would go check stuff out that I was like, they might not want to check it out. And again, who knows when I'm coming back here? I don't. And I gotta say, like my oldest daughter, who's a big thrill ride fan, right? She is a big thrill ride fan. She's like, Dad, next time we do Disney, can we go back to Disneyland? I mean, this is somebody that loves Guardians and loves Tron and loves Space Mountain, right? And loves all the big e-ticket rides, right? She's saying that, right? So it made its mark. And we know for a fact this is not a one and done, that we will be back. This will be in our rotation. This will be a summer destination for us. How often we do it, I'm not sure. But that's kind of how the trip was laid out. So we did a couple easy days where we kind of worked the beach and Universal around it. As a matter of fact, the Universal day, we did no parks. Then we had a resort switch where we went from Grand Count to Disneyland Hotel. And then we had 3 hardcore park days with all pool breaks every day. Or I think one day we actually did more of just relax in the room for an hour or two. We actually didn't do the pool. But it allowed us with the 5 days to really see everything that we wanted to in terms of nighttime shows. And that's my number one thing.
Yeah. So that leads into kind of the next thing is like, what were your main goals heading into the trip that you're like, we need to accomplish this? Like you kind of, everyone always has those to-dos, and if you don't do them, your trip is ruined and that sort of thing. But like, as you're thinking about the trip, like this, this is what it's going to take to be a successful trip. And were you able to achieve all the things you wanted to?
I would definitely say my list would probably be different from my family somewhat because I am a big nighttime show and a nighttime fan. They like it too. But like if I had my druthers, I probably would have did Paint the Night a second time. But I read the room and it was like, we did that once. Let's move on. The first time, and I know we're going to get to Mulligans at some point, but I screwed up the Wondrous Journeys. The first time we watched it, we had a big tree in front of us and just didn't see any of the projections. So that was a big miss. But to me, to determine it was to like make it successful, I needed them to feel like they loved it as much as I did, and they absolutely did. So between the unique attractions, which there's plenty, between the similar attractions that are mostly done better out west, it's a small world, way better. Pirates longer. Space Mountain will not break your back. Big Thunder's got pyro, right? Or pyro effects.
Effects, yeah.
So, Tiana's Bayou Adventure, it's a shorter attraction and probably leads to a better experience. I still probably would take the one at World better because I don't mind the long hallways. I'm okay with it. But many of the attractions are better out west. They just are. And my gut feeling is, and maybe you would know this better than me, is that they shut their attractions down very aggressively with refurbishment. My family didn't have a chance to do Matterhorn bobsleds. That was down. We couldn't do Star Tours. Not a big loss. We've done that plenty of times. We lost, the opportunity to do a Magical Life, the new Walt animatronic. Yep. We missed that by a couple weeks. So like we missed some things, but we hit all the headliners. We hit all the nighttime shows. My family did not do the Star Wars show. I did it the first night and made the call that was not worth doing in lieu of not seeing Wondrous Journeys and, in front of It's a Small World. And we wanted to experience all the unique food offerings. I know Jason has mentioned Right Down Main Street. You know who that is?
Yeah, the YouTube channel, yeah.
She's great. She does a great job, and she's done, YouTube videos on Disneyland unique food, stuff that they need to bring out the world. Watched a lot of, Mammoth Club with Al and Molly, right? And as well as just like Disney Food Blog. Did a lot of research on the food, and I got this list. Nobody's gonna be able to see it probably, but it's huge. I mean, there's 58 items here, and I think I could count them. It won't be exciting if I count them, but I think we hit like 35 of them. I mean, we really put a dent into this, and we ranked them all.
I noticed that when you were doing your day by day on it's something like it was like do a trip like do a ride, get something to eat, do a ride, get something to eat. It like definitely seemed like, and it was a lot of like, we'll get one thing and share it or whatever. It wasn't like you guys were like chowing down the whole day, but it was definitely like getting these different food items was a key, high priority for you.
That's right. And my family fell in love with a few favorites that we did get a couple times. So we could get to them. If you want, we can get to the top
Yes.
five
I mean, maybe it's
favorites.
just like, because you kind of hit on, I think, the Eagles and some of the highlights of the trip. I mean, unless there's any other highlight that you haven't gotten to, and then also any mulligans that you have, and then we can get into the top fives, I think.
Yeah, Mulligan's was definitely Wondrous Journeys. Definitely screwed that one up. Um, I would say if I could do it over again, I probably would have skipped Universal and did another beach day. I think that would have meant more to my wife.
Mm-hmm.
I think she would have got more out of it. You know, I think we are massive theme park fans, and I've never done it at Universal Park. And again, I'm thinking, when am I going to be back out here again with my family? Maybe never again. And I know that's not true now. So in hindsight, probably could have skipped that and maybe did another beach day. The only problem is I only had a car for the first, unless I wanted to pay for it because of parking.
Yeah.
I only had it for the first 3 or 4 days, right?
Right.
So I didn't want to do a beach day. That's kind of rough.
Right.
And we were also over July 4th, right? So July 4th was on a Friday. So I'm thinking, do we want to go to a beach on a Friday? Do we want to go on a Saturday or Sunday? When you're going to get more locals going to the beach. So those factors did play into it a little bit. But I think in hindsight, if I could have found another way to do another beach day, I think it would have really hit home with the family.
Yeah, I think I recall when you were giving your review of Universal, not like you didn't like it, but it kind of like afterwards, you kind of hit you guys that you're like more than a theme park family, you're probably a Disney family. And I think we had similar feelings. We did Universal Orlando back a couple of years ago, and we really enjoyed it. We're excited, my wife and I are going to hit up Epic Universe when we go down, but definitely like hit us afterwards. Like we're definitely a Disney family more than like a theme park family. Like there are just things about it that didn't hit us the same way they do when you're at a Disney park. So
I don't know what it is, but Disney gets me with the feels, and I guess it's probably because of the nighttime shows, and I guess there's nostalgia, just from me falling in love with the theme parks and with Disney. And I'm not saying that Universal doesn't have charm, but I'm not connected to the IPs like I am with Disney. I mean,
yeah,
I'm more connected with Minions than I am with Snow White at this point, right? And the Minions ride was not that great. Like that to me, that's like their flagship IP, and it was a weak attraction. And I don't know, and there was no connection to me to the IP. I'm not saying that I dislike it. I because I do. I appreciate the Secret Lives of Pets and Jurassic Park and Harry Potter. Like we even started watching the Harry Potter movies. We never saw them, so we're kind of watching them slowly. So I mean, I'm glad that we did the butter beer, and I'm glad that we checked it out. I mean, to me, probably a more thrilling part of the day, and I know this is going to bother. Oh, by the way, Mike was also telling me, but Sean, who my
yeah,
counterpart on the podcast, he's been like, you got to go, and I'm glad we did. Like, I don't want to take anything away, but I think in hindsight, because we had 5 park days, maybe we could have just took the gas off the pedal for another day and really just did like a beach and sightseeing, because the
yeah.
beaches out there, when we went to Crescent Bay Beach, have you ever been to the beaches out in Southern California?
So we went to the beach though, because when we did our Southern California trip, we spent some time in San Diego. So we went to
Okay.
one of the beaches down there, and then when we went up to Disney, it was just to do Disney in Anaheim and stuff like that. So we did some
Okay.
beaches in San Diego. So different beaches than you did, but
But even like the scenery when you drive like to that beach that I mentioned, it's beautiful. There's hills everywhere and just beaches like along the highway. Like it was gorgeous. Like it was like you could get lost there, seriously. And that's what my friends did. I mean, they hit more beaches than we did. They had 9 days again. And that's the other thing, in hindsight, I probably should have did Tuesday to Tuesday. We did a Tuesday to Monday.
mhm.
So we lost some travel time there. Um, so I would say, when Mulligan's there. And the other thing was, I dropped a lot of money in Universal because I paid for Universal Express.
Yeah,
I paid, I think it was $700 for the Express. So one thing, Phil, that I did is I made sure my family could sleep in every day. I did not push anybody out the door at 7 or 8 a.m. I just wasn't doing that. I thought I was going to, because especially to get more value at a lightning lane, especially the rules are different there. But I kind of made the call maybe like by day two. I'm like, I'm not going to do that. Let them
Yeah.
sleep in. And if I get up, as long as they don't give me, I guess I want to say like, a bad attitude for me going to explore, which they didn't. They were fine with it. They would tease me like, oh, what did you do? Like, and my wife went through pictures like, you did Tiana's? I was like, it was a 5-minute standby, like I walked by it. She just kind of made a smirk like, you're silly, but to me, like, I didn't want to do that for Universal. It was, 45 minutes an hour away. So we would get up early. I wanted to be able to take it easier. We got on everything we wanted because we paid for it. So,
Yeah.
and again, figured it was probably a once a lifetime thing. I do think I'll get back to that park, but it could be many California trips before I do.
Gotcha. All right. Let's get into the top 5 lists, and because we
Sure.
did just hit the hour mark. So I know food was a big part for you. So my first one is, I want you to hit your top 5 food items that you had.
All right. So, and this is like Dizhappenings. I have not got to this list yet. So we rated everything 1 through 5. And let me read you what I have for the 5s. Okay. A churro. The churro got a flat 5 because the churros are way better in land. And I know that doesn't seem real, sexy, right? I mean, it's a churro, but they're outstanding. And then the cheesy garlic pretzel bread, they had that at Edelweiss or Maurice's Treats. That was one that we went back and got a few times. Delicious, really good. Did you ever try that one?
We didn't have that one, I don't think.
Okay.
We did make sure to get a churro because I know that's a thing at Disneyland, and they're definitely a million times better than at World.
I haven't had the one at Nomad Lounge. The next down and back trip that we do, let's make sure we check that off, Phil. The raspberry rose macaron at the Jolly Holiday Cafe. You would think when you're going to bite into it, it would be very artificial, but it's got real raspberries in it. It is like refreshing and delicious, incredible tasting. As a matter of fact, I was trying to Google, is there anybody that like drop ships these things in dry ice to my house? Because I want another one of these. I brought one home and it just
wasn't the same.
Cracked into it wasn't the same. The next one was the Monte Cristo, and we just got the cheese version. And again, it's got the strawberry compote. I think I said compost one time, and you corrected me. You remember? It's not compost. But it was outstanding, really good. And the fries, the truffle fries that come with it are really good. They're like shoestring fries. But the sandwich itself is great. It's deep fried, but it's not too rich or too greasy or anything like that. It's got just a great taste profile. Cheese is mixed in well. It's got powdered sugar, so it's just a different take. Again, it's something I wouldn't mind trying to duplicate here because it was so good. So that got a 5 as well. And I think that's my 5s. I have a lot of 4.5s. Also the San Francisco, I think I'm saying it right, style street corn from Cocina Cucamonga Mexican Grill also got a 5.
Okay.
Big street corn fan. They pull that off. It's delicious.
My wife and daughter love, we get my daughter's go-to thing at Epcot is the street corn they have at the Margarita Bar outside the Mexico Pavilion. So they're like street corn fiends. So
awesome. I actually don't think I've had that one. I think I got the African corn, I think at Animal Kingdom, or maybe I thought I was going to and I didn't. I forget, but I want to say I might have tried that before. I didn't try the one in Mexico. That's a good tip. But those were my 5. So I would say those are my top 5 food items.
All right.
Let me see if I got some stinkers in there.
I was going to ask if there was. Well, I was just wondering if there's anything you were really looking forward to and it kind of disappointed. You were like, "Oh, this is going to be amazing," and then it really fell short.
I'm looking here. I'm looking at my list. I would say everything was pretty good. I think my number one. Okay, I'll give you one. I think beignets are overrated. I think they're just overrated. We had the ones over, and we gave it. My family, my girls gave it a 4. I think my wife and I only had a little bite. I probably would have gave it a 3. I just think they're okay. I mean, I haven't had the ones at Port Orleans,
Yeah.
so I'd like to compare it to those. I had the ones at right near Tiana's Bayou Adventure.
Oh
I
yeah.
forget
Yeah, those
the
aren't
little
even
steak.
really like they call them beignets, but they're not really beignets. The
They
ones they
weren't
have there.
good. They
The
weren't
ones at
good.
Port Orleans are rather good, and especially if you get the ones with the booze. But those are good.
Okay.
And then obviously, if you ever get to actual New Orleans, you can get some really good ones there.
I always pictured like a beignet not as like I always pictured it more dense and not as hollow. Maybe that's not true. Maybe they're all like
That
kind of
yeah,
thin on the
they're
outside.
supposed to really puff up and like have like air cavities inside. They're supposed to be pretty light and fluffy and pretty hollow inside. So
Yeah, I don't think I've had one of those yet. So
okay.
maybe I'm just not getting the right ones. And again, they were okay. We also got, and I actually don't have it on this list, but we did. What was the place that you told me?
Oh, Bengal barbecue.
Yeah, so we did. That was a little bit of a letdown. Again, we don't eat steak, right? So
Yeah.
maybe if we ate steak or ribs, like the chicken was fine, no qualms about it. We also got the Thai frozen iced tea, which
Hmm.
was delicious. It was almost like a frappuccino style. It was really good. But they had I think they're the tiger tails. Does that
Yeah,
sound familiar?
I think they have that in there. Yeah.
Like they're supposed to be like this garlic bread tails. I don't know if we got it at like 10 or 11 o'clock at night. Maybe they were just all stale by then, but we couldn't even finish it. It was so dry. So might want to give that one another chance. But that was kind of a letdown too. That didn't make my list on here, but um, another regret is we didn't get to a lot of stuff. I wanted to do the lobster nachos at Lamplight Lounge, the
Oh
boardwalk
yeah,
dining.
we
You
did
actually
those.
have to.
Those are good.
Okay. So you like right now they only have it at one spot. They don't have it at the rest of the Lamplight Lounge. So you have to kind of do the walk up, and that's maybe one casualty that we had because of getting ring a hopper. It's tough to get everything in. There was some other stuff at Cafe Daisies that we missed. We also missed Rancho del Zoccola. I'm probably saying that wrong, but we wanted to do the mocha cream puff and the walking taco and the chips. We missed all that, so that was a regret. I think we wanted to do it our last day, and they close at like 9 o'clock. And we would come back to the parks like 7 o'clock and start in the opposite direction. We just never got over there. So
Yeah.
more things to check off the next time we go.
And you guys didn't do Blue Bayou, right?
We didn't, and
Yeah. So that's another almost like definitely have
yes.
to do the next trip.
So that's a good comparison. So I definitely feel like the sit down dining is not as in depth as World.
Yeah.
Like World has got a ton of restaurants and a lot of them really good. Where we did Cafe Orleans. I had such a good experience when I did in February 2024. I wanted to do it again. Family loved it, but we only did one of those, and it's partially because I had a list of 58 items, right?
Yeah.
And we had a lot to get through. Blue Bayou didn't have as many things that I thought were going to pertain to us, like that appeal to us. But I heard some people mention a few things later on. I'm like, you know what? We probably should have gave that a shot. And my family was like, that's pretty cool. As we went, we were on Pirates going past it. So that's definitely on the to-do list for next time.
Gotcha. All right. So I'll give you two more top 5 lists. The first one is, what were things that you did that like were kind of surprise hits or things that exceeded expectations that, like obviously you knew going in, you were going to like the nighttime shows. That was going to be a big thing, but was anything sort of like unexpected or whatever that really jumped out at you that are definitely memories you're taking away?
I mean, I did Rise, and I feel like Rise is kind of like almost something that you take for granted.
Mhm.
Like we've done it so many times, the both of us, and for whatever reason, sometimes when I get off that attraction, I get emotional. I just do. I just like this is like just a grand production at its finest, right? And I think people underplay it. It's a 20-minute experience where there's so many moving parts, and now I'm seeing all the effects work, including the cannons at the end, and I just got a little emotional. So that was a little moment for me. I'm a big eyeball moment guy, and I have my kids and my wife are watching Paint the Night, and I kind of just jockeyed myself where I took a picture of just their eyeballs watching this parade, and it's my favorite picture from the whole trip because I know that they were soaking it in like I was. So that was a moment. The moment getting off of Indiana Jones, I built it up and I felt like it delivered with everybody for the most part. I think we all came off like that. That is a fun attraction, and it's something that's missing. Space Mountain. Space Mountain is an interesting attraction because it's something my wife is like, I'm just gonna skip it for now on. And we're like, come on, you got to do it, you got to try it. And it was the attraction that she said, let's do it over and over again afterwards because it's way smoother and it was doable and fun. So we had a lot of those moments, stuff that you can't really do. Um, what else? What else was kind of storybook canals made everybody just smile. It's just a really cute attraction. And like those little filler attractions don't exist in Magic Kingdom. They don't. The Snow White attraction was a big hit. The Alice in Wonderland was a big hit. Mr. Toad's everybody hated except for my oldest daughter who thought it was cool we were in hell. So it's just a very interesting, subtle differences that I think like exceeded expectations. And the other thing was, I don't think anybody expected to I don't think anybody expected the bubble like we had. Because you really do. People keep always saying you don't have the bubble, you don't have the bubble. If you're staying in a Disney resort, you definitely do. You were
Yeah.
on the bubble, in the bubble. You have to get through security to get to downtown Disney. And again, like for me, one of the things is I want to feel safe where I'm at. It's really important. And, I always feel safe at World. Like to the point where, and just like you can let your oldest daughter go venture out. We felt like that there too, and there's not that many places I would feel like that about. So, um, the nighttime shows we talked about, I know a lot, but I think the food too. The food just everything exceeded our expectations. DCA I haven't given it enough love here, but that's a fun park. It definitely doesn't have as much to do, but they're about to put a lot of money into that. So that's going to be in 5 years. That's going to be an exciting park. So
Yeah,
hopefully,
that's one of those things that I know they're working on expanding Avengers Campus and they're putting in Pandora and Coco and stuff like that. So that park was definitely a huge letdown for us when we went, but I think it was a lot of because there weren't a lot of everybody rides. Um, so maybe once they kind of finish that park a little bit, maybe that's when we'll have to get out there again and try that again and give it a fair shake.
yeah. Another moment too that just came to my mind was the first time we did Radiator Spring Racers and we went into Cars Land. It was our rival day. Everybody was kind of tired. We went back and did it our last DCA day. So we didn't have Park Hopper. So we only had 2 days there. So we did that our first day and our second to the last day we did DCA. And I actually had Park Hopper the first day because of my voucher. So when everybody went to bed, I hit Disneyland Park. But anyway, so DCA, our second day, our second night, we got a chance to really take in Cars Land a little bit more. We missed the moment where they flipped the neon on. I think we probably missed it, not by much.
Yeah,
And I know you said you got to do it. I really
we did
wanted
that.
to.
We were able to be there for that. It's a really cool moment.
And it was like really so immersive, that whole area. In Raider Spring Racers, I ended up videoing like the whole experience with the family, and we're just reliving it and winning the race, and the fact that it was darker and cooler, and it was just a home run the second time we did it. The first time we did it was like, yeah, it's a good ride. The second time we did it, we're like, okay, we get it. The other thing was my family fell in love with Incredicoaster too, and that was one that it took me a little bit to get used to. But I stacked that up, with maybe it might be the best roller coaster domestically. It's long. I mean, to me, it competes hard with, I'd say Expedition Everest. And I know a lot of people love Guardians. But I don't. Incredicoaster is really good. It's really, really good. What was your take on Incredicoaster? Did you
Yeah,
like
so it
it?
wasn't it didn't have the Incredibles overlay when we did it,
Okay.
but I still really enjoy. I thought it was a really solid and fun coaster. Like you said, it's got good length. It's got enough speed and thrills that, so it's definitely one of the better Disney coasters I've done. We've been to Universal, like Velocicoaster is way better and stuff like that. But as far as Disney coasters go, it's definitely up there.
And it never seems to build huge waits too. And like a lot of Lightning Lane multipass there is like in the next hour or within the hour. It's like turnkey. Like Web Slingers was, if it's 3 o'clock, the next one's at 3:15. Like there was a lot of attractions like that made it easy to do lighting lanes too.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of backtracking. I really try hard to avoid that, especially traveling with groups. Like if you're traveling with like I can zigzag, but if I'm with my family, I try so hard not to zigzag. And the way you can do lightning lanes there, and with the combination of standby attractions, you can really just go to an area and get it all done and move on. And I think that's important. I think it just because you do consume a lot of steps there because it is a pedestrian park, right?
Yeah.
Both parks, there's no boats and I mean, there's no boat transportation, there's no buses, right? So you're walking. Your experience when you stayed at the Howard Johnson, were you able to walk to downtown Disney, or
Yeah.
did you have to use the tram?
So we walked everywhere.
Okay.
But downtown, it's on the opposite side of where downtown Disney is. So if we wanted to get to downtown Disney, which we did do our arrival day and stuff, you had to kind of like walk through the Esplanade to
Okay.
get to the other side to go to. But we walked everywhere.
Okay.
Like we didn't use any trams or cars or anything.
Gotcha. Okay. Cool.
All right. So with that, the other one I was going to ask you was your top 5 moments. I don't know if there's any that you haven't already hit on, but maybe you could tie them into sort of your closing argument for like why a Walt Disney World family should book a SoCal and Disneyland trip.
I mean, if you've done Walt Disney World, 3 or 4 straight times in a row, like just put Disneyland on your agenda. It will give you. And listen, I'm not the only one that feels this way. Mike Rallman from Be Our Guest podcast probably went to World 100 times. And he finally got out to Disneyland a few years ago, and the guy like fell in love with it. It just there's something different about Disneyland, and now's the time to go with the 70th stuff. With between Wondrous Journeys and Paint the Night, which I guess you saw at the 60th, right?
Yeah, so we were there for the 60th. So I saw Paint the Night there, and I actually also saw Paint the Night when I was at Hong Kong Disneyland.
Okay.
So
What'd you think of that? Did you like it?
I love that. I haven't seen Starlight yet, so we'll see.
Okay.
But to date, Paint the Night is my favorite parade. Period.
Okay.
That I've seen. So it's just fun and upbeat, and and it feels like it fits that park well. It fit Hong Kong Disneyland well. I know Disney World tends to go for more of the like orchestral type shows and stuff like that, but I really thought Paint the Night was a great show.
Yeah, and it's got plenty of unique offerings right now for the 70th. It's got the Celebrate Happy song all over the place, and you'll catch the cavalcade. And I probably wouldn't go in the next month because they're going to have like Raiders Spring Racers and some other refurbishments. So you do have to plan around that, and you got to know that Disneyland does refresh, but all their attractions just feel new and they feel refreshed. It's a Small World is light year better. Speaking of light year, the Buzz attraction is way better at Land, right? Like it's a repeated, and I guess because they take their rides down more, and and again, I just feel like you don't. Here's the other thing: when you go to World, for me, when I take my family to World, I feel like I need 7 or 8 days to hit everything. Like whether it's like to have a half night at Hollywood Studios or Epcot. You don't need that out west, right? Like you can get everything in 3 days, 4 days. I did 5 because I really tried to glaze, but you can really do a 3-day trip and hit everything. Oh, the weather is so much better out there. It's consistent. You don't have to worry. Maybe February and March might be outliers. Maybe you want to go to Orlando. The rest of the year, the weather's going to be better out there. It's just going to be better in Anaheim. So you're going to have better weather. You're not going to have to worry about the rain. There wasn't one raindrop. You don't have to worry about ponchos. We didn't even mention like Grizzly River Run. That attraction's like is way better than Cali. It's way better. Um, so to me, like a lot of similar attractions, you'll feel at home. You like a lot of people know how to tour the parks already, and you have you're familiar with things, right? You're familiar with where things are at, so you're going to be able to master this park, and you can take it leisurely too. And there's enough unique stuff, and if you like nighttime shows, it's the place to be, man, no question about it. Where else can you see Wondrous Journeys, Phantasmic, and a Star Wars nighttime show, and Tapestry of Happiness? There's just so much going on there. So I would definitely get out there during the 70th. They had these anniversary ticket deal. I'm guessing that they'll do it next summer. If you could find a way out there, I mean, traveling is that's honestly, like Jason's got a large family. You have a large family, right? It's tough to, fly people to Anaheim. So I totally get it. But if there's a way, find a way and do it because it deserves a spot on your vacation shelf.
All right. Well, thanks, Matt. I think that was really informative, and I can feel the passion in your voice. And it's I don't know when we'll get there, but I think it's pushing it up a little bit. Let's make it that way.
All right. Mission accomplished.
All right. So thanks. We're at the hour 20-minute mark. Thanks for sticking with us, everyone who still is. Jason will be back next week from his trip, so we'll get right into another trip report. We'll see how many episodes it takes us to cover that. And right after that, I'm heading down for my down and back with my daughter. I get to wake up in a few hours to book our lightning lanes. So there's always stuff going on. And then before we know it, Destination D23 will be here with hopefully some more exciting news. But thanks for joining us, Matt. Everybody follow Matt at Dizhappenings on Twitter and all that sort of stuff, and listen to the Dizhappenings podcast every day. It launches. It's out at about 6 a.m. every day. Wake up, have your coffee with Matt. So thanks again, Matt, for coming on, and thanks everyone for listening, and be well, everyone.